Ryan grew up in the northern Connecticut town of Somers, but for the last decade has spent much of the calendar year living in Europe, being paid to play professional wheelchair basketball. His life comes with a personal story that would have left most of us aspiring to something much less ambitious than work as an elite international athlete. Ryan always returns home to Connecticut, never forgetting his roots, but never sugarcoating them either. The good, the bad, the challenging, and the triumphant.
We have a special guest speaker. Ryan Martin graduated from Somers High School in 1997. He was born with spina bifida and had both his legs amputated when he was 2 years old. He discovered wheelchair basketball in his youth and excelled. Ryan attended Southwest Minnesota State University on a basketball scholarship, going on to play professionally in Spain and the U.S.
One of the things that I promised myself when I was in high school and when I was in middle school and things like that is if I was ever able to make something of myself, I wanted to come back and make my experience count for something. So you're going to get a chance to work with all the coaches, but we want to see where you're at and try to make sure you get a little bit better by the end of the week. Everybody's going to have different ability levels with the basketball. One of the things that my foundation does a really good job of is it opens doors for kids that they didn't think existed, whether that's, oh, I can go to college, oh, I can play basketball at this level, and it transcends just the idea of sports. So, like for many, sports opens a lot of doors, but for these kids, I feel like it opens even more things. And get you scrimmaging by the end of the afternoon, but that's going to require you guys to be really, really on top of things. Okay, this is your spinal cord when you are born with spina bifida. I said I'd buy you another pencil, I promise. Going to junior high school and going to high school in Somers wasn't the easiest thing for me, okay? I stick out. Okay, I've been born with, I was born with spina bifida. My legs were amputated when I was at the age of 2. And let's just be honest, I didn't fit into an affluent, bucolic community where I was adopted, and I was adopted into a family of special needs. 8 were adopted and 4 were special needs. It made me comfortable in who I am and, having people judge me for my disability, because when I would go home, there was a lot of individuals with disabilities, so I didn't stick out. And when I went through the difficult times through, middle school and high school, that was always my, my safe haven, my beacon, so to speak. I wanted to just kind of stay at home, because at home I was just Ryan. Everybody was disabled, and at school that wasn't the case. I'm going to tell you about my bullying experience and talk to you about what it was like for me and how I handled that, and how as an adult coming back with that experience, how I think you should handle that now, okay? I've struggled with a long time with being really out of shape, like really, really heavy, and being adopted. There was a lot of obstacles put in front of me. Aside from my physical disability, I had a plethora of learning disabilities. I had an IEP that looked like the Bible, okay? Name calling, the making fun of, being the only student with a disability, and sticking out the way I did, being ostracized. Growing up, it was like, no, Ryan, you can't play basketball with the other kids because you're in a wheelchair. No, Ryan, you can't take regular classes because, you have learning disabilities. No, Ryan, you can't do this. And I'm always that person who's looking for that little bit of motivation to go ahead and excel, that gasoline, that igniter to keep going. And that's always been mine. If you're that person doing that bullying, save yourself that humiliation, because at some point, being the star athlete at Somers Middle School or Somers High School, or, whatever you think gives you that right, is going to seem really, really insignificant.
He's strong. He's very strong in his mind. He knows exactly who he is. When Ryan was in high school, in his later years in high school, he would come come to school in his wheelchair down Mountain View Road, which drove all the administrators and teachers crazy because they were worried about him because he wasn't on the bus. He wanted to get to school his own way, and he did it. He came all the way down, and then he would travel the back roads to school.
My biological parents declined to want to meet me, and what I was told was they had told the family that I had passed away. I've decided that, like, I'm not gonna try to find them, because if they told their entire family that I'm dead, I'm not gonna ruin a whole family for a Hallmark moment that probably is not gonna exist, if that makes sense. I was the planned second child. They did not plan for spina bifida. Basically, I was born with legs, and they hooked out like this at all times. And so where I am now, looking back, they made the right decision. If they did not feel like they could take care of me, that was the best decision to be made. I'm not naive to think the first thing that people see when I come in the room is the fact that I have no legs, but after that, I can control what they feel about me and what their perspective is, and how I carry myself is indicative of how they're going to respond to that next person with a disability they come across. Excuse me. If you don't know, I play basketball for a living. I play wheelchair basketball. How many people have seen it aside from when they walked in this morning? Okay. One of the kids at the school asked me today, you know, he's like, is basketball life? And I said, it controls my finances, it controls how much I sleep and what I eat. And so I said, it's really a full-time commitment. Take one thing as an athlete from this presentation is the value of sweat equity. And what I mean by that is just outworking everybody. Talent is nice, but talent with a work ethic is a pretty magical combination. You have to fall in love with the process of being great.
He wants to be phenomenal. And the first time I met Ryan, I seen that. He don't want to settle for good, because good is kind of the enemy of great. No matter what things that's going on in his life, he's not really controlled by circumstances. He's controlled by a commitment, and a commitment to, you know, go back and help his community.
¿Por qué no te gusta? It continues to be free of charge. I've had tremendous support since day one.
I think what everybody likes about Ryan is the quick friendship.
Kelly, how are you? Good morning. Getting by.
I think what people are most impressed with Ryan is just his sheer will and determination to do whatever he wants to do. He gets an idea in his head and he's just going to go do it.
What we might have to do, I'm going to strip this out real quick.
How do you exactly have it wrong?
Okay, so here's the deal. You see how this is adjustable? What is probably is, it's probably too loose. So the foundation has grown, so you know we're doing camps in Europe and several throughout the U.S. It'll stay.
It don't make any sense to go through something in life. Maybe that causes pain, but you don't get a reward from it. Yeah. And I think he's really getting reward from it, from his mentorship program, through his educational program, through his foundation, to his various camps that he's doing. He's a great man.
Okay. Good job. We're gonna work on this all week, okay? Good start. I've had great people that have really opened doors for me, and I feel like that pay it forward motto. If I can do that for one kid, and I hope I'm doing it more because we're spending a lot of weeks around the country, that's what I want to do. Boom. Good shot. All right, good job.
I think that once you become a friend with Ryan, you're hooked, and so you might get a random text at 3 in the morning when he's overseas, and you know, he's asking a specific question about something because he knows that you might be the right person to talk to, and he uses his network as good as anybody that I've ever met.
D, we'll have you go through another time, okay? Good job, man. Ball. Hey, Angel, ready? Otra vez. As soon as I was able to start making shots and playing basketball, it was like, you know, like that moment, like that surreal moment, like, wow, I found something I really love and that I want to do. Starting my foundation in Connecticut, I really wanted to reach out to, you know, kids here because I didn't feel like there was a lot of programs when I was growing up. The whole idea is to shoot a true shot, okay? And then DJ's story, especially being a kid from Connecticut, when his father came up to me and he said, hey, I want to say thank you, I was kind of, you know, I was kind of startled. Did you have to angle?
I was actually at football practice, we was taking team pictures, and my legs was feeling kind of weird. I felt right at the goalpost, and I couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't get off the ground.
It's a new life for us. We are adapting to the wheelchair. There's a lot of things he think he can't do in the wheelchair. Then he comes to realize I can do it.
Up the chair, up the chair, up the chair. There you go.
I haven't seen him smile like this since September. He usually is in the house, in his room, but every day last week he's been excited. Dad, make sure you email them, make sure everything is okay. I'm just so happy to see him smiling.
I hope that this fills a void that maybe the father was speaking about. Sports are a powerful thing, and we're glad to be a part of that.
I just told him thank you because there's so much people can do, but they don't do it. And for him to take his time out this week and support all of these kids, I appreciate it 150%.
Again, I urge all of you to remember Ryan's takeaways. And the challenge when we have somebody like this inspire us is to keep that inspiration fresh.
I truly feel that like my story is one of those, it's like a Disney story. It shouldn't have happened. The kid who was adopted, the kid who lost both his legs when he was 2, the kid who, struggled with weight issues, and where these kids look at me like I'm their superhero. I kind of laugh and I'm like, I chuckled to myself. I'm like, man, if you knew, I was dealing with the same thing, but basketball opened that door. And one of I think the things that is most important, when that door is open for you, when possible, you got to do the same for others.